This is the second feature film adaptation of a novel, but is the novelist pronounced Littell? Robert Littell?
Let's go with that with confidence.
Fine. So previously adapted in 81 with John Savage as Charles Heller, who CIA cryptographer who blackmails his superiors into letting him hunt down and kill the terrorists who murdered his wife. So in this version, Rami Malek is in that lead role. Apparently Hugh Jackman was previously attached, which would have been a very, very different film to have Hugh Jackman in
he's
that
not
role.
a weed apart from anything else.
And it was funny because you said weed and then Lawrence Fishburne said dweeb, or somebody said dweeb. Yeah.
Yes.
Neither of those could ever be. I mean, no, Hugh Jackman would have to walk a very long way to get to that. Anyway, directed by James Hawes, who, of course, you just heard there, whose previous stuff, One Life, did some Black Mirror, but significantly Slow Horses, which you brought up. And this does have a similarly, it's hard to explain, but sort of a muted, downbeat feel to it. That, despite the fact that it does have action sequences. I mean, it has chases, it has runny, jumpy stuff, and it has the glass swimming pool set piece, none of which could be described as low key.
No.
And yet it does have that same just sense of what I think you were referring to when you said like a sort of 70s thriller. There is a certain muting of things. So the director was saying in that interview, the espionage genre is where we go when the world is fractured and distorted. And he calls Charlie an unexpected, underestimated hero. And he says that the key thing is that basically he's a tech guy who remains a tech guy, despite the fact that he goes for training. He still can't shoot. He's told very clearly at the beginning, he can't hit anyone with a gun unless he shoots them from point blank range. And he is told by Lawrence Fishburne's character, you won't be able to do it. And the reason is because you are not a killer. And there's a funny line when Lawrence Fishburne's character, you said, Henderson, he says, my friends call me Hendo. You can call me Colonel Henderson, which I thought was nicely done.
It's good, yeah.
So he is basically charged with turning Charlie into a killer, but knows that he can't do it. From your point of view in that interview, very sharp analysis of Amateur as lover. I had no idea that was the case. I had absolutely no idea that Amateur comes from amour.
Yeah. Well, yes. Okay, I'll give you the whole thing. Here it is.
Yeah.
So amateur, one who has a taste for some art, but does not practice it. From the French amateur, one who loves or lover.
Fantastic.
So it's a direct French translation.
And I mean, that is absolutely brilliant in relation to this because, as you said, the whole thing is motivated by the fact that at the beginning we get his relationship with his partner, who he then loses. That's the thing that sets the thing in motion. And there is quite a lot of him being completely grief-stricken before it turns into being an espionage thriller. And even whilst he is an espionage thriller, he is still a bit of a klutz. He is somebody who is buttoned down, who is emotionally withdrawn. So it is a film which has a kind of, a Cold War heritage, but a modern tech framework. Now, here would be my issues. Lawrence Fishburne said in that interview that over the last 20 years or so, these films have become a little bit formulaic, that you kind of know what you're going to get. He said that even Jason Bourne, who doesn't know who he is, has got all these kind of effectively superpowers. And they're saying that the difference here is that Charlie doesn't have those. He remains somebody who is basically inept in the field. I think that's true. I think outside of that central conceit, this is a well-trodden road. I mean, the phrase you used, you said there's a lot of this film that is familiar. And you were talking about paranoid 70s thrillers. And I think that with the exception of that central conceit that the character is basically not a hero, he's not somebody who has incredible skills, particularly not in the area that he's meant to have them for this particular task. But the rest of it does feel very familiar. I mean, I think the most shocking thing, and you brought this up, is in the wake of Signalgate, you think, okay, Charlie's an amateur, but look at what's happening in the real world. I mean, we were literally in a place, the Pete Hegseths of this world, drunken bozo nutball idiots discussing matters of rampant, national security because they so the idiocy of what's going on at the moment. So in this film, it imagines that there is a character who's very good at their particular job, who then has to step out of it, and their superiors are kind of sinister, and their superiors are quite sharp but sinister. And in the real world, apparently, they're just idiots. And that is a more shocking thing. The other thing that you're right about is that this doesn't have a tourist's eye view of the world. I think that is a very good point. But that and the uniqueness of the central character are really the main selling points. I think beyond that, it is a sort of twisty thread. I mean, as the plot goes on, it does get more preposterous. By the time you get to the end, I mean, the end is one of those, oh, come on. But it is, isn't it? It's just like, yeah, no, I'm not buying that at all. And I sort of stopped buying it after the glass swimming pool. But nice detail there about the star of the first film cameoing as a flower seller. That was nice. So whilst it was on, I enjoyed it, and I like the idea that it's that Hendo, he's brought in to train this guy to become a super assassin, and he can't do it because the guy isn't a super assassin, and that's it, and that's the main thing. Beyond that, I think it's fairly standard, to use your word, familiar fare.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed it perfectly whilst I was watching it.
Yes.
I'm not sure that I'll remember it in 2 weeks' time.
It does fall into the category of which there are scores and scores of films and TV series, which we rely on the fact that they find this thing that's happened, this injustice, this crime, whatever it is. As long as we can take this to the top, we'll be fine. The problem comes is if the top is the problem. And from now, I mean, I know we don't need to talk about politics. It's not a political podcast, but it is relevant for us to believe films like this. This relates to a world which, when they made the film, did exist and now doesn't. Because if you take it to the top, that doesn't solve anything at all.
No, but that sort of having a mistrust of all authority, whether it's the CIA or whatever it is, I mean, that is fairly well ingrained. I mean, I almost struggle to think of an espionage thriller in which at some point the people doing the work aren't double crossed by their superiors. I mean, we just always, the difference is that here the superiors are smart. What's changed is that now they're just dumb. The awful reality now is it may not be that people are conspiring against you in really twisty, sneaky ways. It may be that they're just morons.